Welcome to C-Suite Sherpas, where we shine a spotlight on business experts and resources that you should know. My name is Ron Partridge. I'm the host, and today I've got a great guest today. Her name is Mindy Scheier. Hi, Mindy.
Hi, Ron. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Mindy is the CEO and founder of Runway of Dreams Foundation and Gamut Management. So, Mindy works toward the inclusion of people with disabilities into the fashion and beauty industry. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, if you're ready to go, we'll jump right into it. All right. Can you give us a snapshot of kind of what your business is and the major outcomes that you're really getting for the people that you serve?
So, my story begins that I am a fashion designer by trade. I'm also the mom of a now 20-year-old son with a very rare form of muscular dystrophy. And we learned early on that he was going to struggle with everyday tasks, one of which is the very thing I love more than anything, and that's getting dressed every day. For Oliver, it was a daily reminder of what he could not do, which are buttons and zippers and putting on shoes, tying laces, etc. So in 2013, I decided to take my background and have a tiny little small goal of changing the fashion and beauty industry to be inclusive of people with disabilities in the sense of really rethinking the way that product is designed for people with disabilities to make it easier for everyone to be able to wear the same products.
That is very cool, actually. Do you have examples of where you were able to help somebody with some disabilities? And what does it do for them? And how does it really brighten up their life?
So I'll share with you the story that started my whole trajectory that when Oliver started school in kindergarten, he had to wear sweatpants every day because it was the only way he'd be able to go to the bathroom on his own, not being able to do a button or a zipper, and also to be able to fit the pant leg over his leg braces. And when he was in first grade, he came home from school and said, "Mom, I want to wear jeans like everybody else gets to wear." And it was a real kick in the stomach moment, not only as a mom, but somebody that dedicated her career to the fashion industry, that I couldn't solve that. So that night, I ripped apart a pair of his jeans and put them back together with some creative stitching and some Velcro, etc. And when he woke up the next day and was able to independently dress himself for the first time in his life, an immediate transformation came over him of confidence and self-esteem. And he went into school with his head held so high that day. And it really dawned on me like a lightning bolt that if Oliver was experiencing this at 7 years old, how in the world did the 1.3 billion people on our planet manage life with clothing challenges? And that was really the impetus of starting first Runway of Dreams and really understanding that modifications to mainstream products can make it more wearable for everyone.
That's incredible. And so, where do people that have disabilities or children with disabilities, where can they go to get help or how can they engage you?
So it was really important when I decided to tackle this huge goal of mine that I really wanted it to be from a mainstream perspective. So fortunately, in 2015, I got myself in front of the team at Tommy Hilfiger.
Hmm.
And in 2016, we made fashion history by developing the first ever mainstream adaptive clothing line. Actually, this is one of our first pieces behind me. This is a typical Tommy button-down shirt that looks exactly like the one that's for sale. And it just has magnetic closures behind
Oh,
it.
that's
So
great.
it basically opens and closes on its own so that on the surface, it looks exactly like the typical button front, but it is so much easier for people with disabilities to be able to utilize. So once we had this huge partnership, suddenly so many other brands started reaching out to us and saying, well, we want to be in the adaptive season. We want to understand how to design for people with disabilities. So now Target has adaptive, Kohl's has adaptive, J.C. Penney, Victoria's Secret, Zappos, Stride Right, Steve Madden, Neiman Marcus actually.
Yeah.
Neiman Marcus has adaptive tailoring in all of their stores to make it easier for their customers with disabilities. So adaptive can be found in all of the brands that I just mentioned online. If you go to their websites and you either type in adaptive or you search for adaptive, their collections will come up.
Wow, that's incredible. What an impact that you've had on that whole thing. That's incredible.
Thank you.
So, how do you see this evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? What kind of things do you see coming down the pipe, and how can we do an even better job?
So we're really focusing first on the fashion and beauty industries because it's really a core to your self-esteem and how you show up to this world. And so many milestones in a person's life, whether it's a first date or a job interview or getting married, what you wear is directly affected, those experiences. So in 5 to 10 years, we're really hoping and feel that we're on our way, that adaptive is just going to be another category in the fashion and beauty industry, especially in the fashion industry to petite or plus size, maternity,
Right.
the different categories within the industry. And from a beauty perspective, really rethinking how the container is opened, how the packaging is opened, things that really preclude people with disabilities from being able to utilize the product. And I always like to reiterate that if it works for someone with a disability, it'll work for everyone. It
Yeah.
really is just rethinking the way that product is designed, and it can be for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So, how is it that our viewers can work with you and collaborate with you? And what kind of value would you provide to people watching this today?
So I have two companies. The first, as you mentioned, is Runway of Dreams Foundation, which is a nonprofit. And I always like to say that Runway of Dreams is really the why the brands and the industries need to include people with disabilities.
Mhm.
The size of the market, 1.3 billion people on our planet identify with having a disability. It's the largest minority in the world by
Mm.
far. And it's also the only minority that every single one of us could be a part of at any point in our life. So, really understanding why wouldn't a brand want to be in a space that eventually we're all going to experience and need products to make our lives easier? So we do that via Runway of Dreams by really raising awareness. We have really big fashion shows. We do our core fashion shows during New York Fashion Week here in New York City. Last year, we had over 60 models with all different types of disabilities in the show wearing product from the brands that I just mentioned. And we've really put a stake in the ground in the industry so that other industry leaders can really see firsthand why this is so important. And we also work very closely with next generation designers. So students that are graduating with design degrees, really exposing them to the need for adaptive, understanding how to design for people with disabilities, etc. And then my second company, Gamut Management, which was formed in 2019, is the how. So it's a for profit and it is a consulting company that we work directly with brands on really helping them to understand how to modify their products and services for people with disabilities. And we do that by including people with disabilities at every step of the value chain.
Mm.
Because as I always like to say, there is no designer, marketer, PR agent, etc., that can really authentically be in this space without having people with disabilities on the journey with them every step of the way. So not only do we have our consulting services, but we also have a talent pool with over 1,000 talent that's growing every week from around the world that we pull in not only for everything from modeling or acting to being a part of focus groups working with brands directly on their marketing campaigns, etc. So that it's really a 360 approach to authentically including people with disabilities. And lastly, sorry, one more thing.
yeah,
And
yeah, no, that's great.
lastly, we created on the Gamut side the first certification mark that certifies that a product or service was authentically approved and developed with people with disabilities. Here's an example. We did work with Adidas that
Okay.
we developed their adaptive sock, and it was granted the Gamut seal of approval to build as a trust for the population that they know that this brand created those socks with and for people with disabilities.
Oh, that's great. So then are your clients or the people you're trying to get to, are they clothing manufacturers? Or are they beyond that?
It's actually both. So we work not only with the brands themselves, but we also work with manufacturers
Mm.
that might be licensing to other brands. We also work with the entertainment industry, not only to provide people with disabilities for roles, but also to ensure that where they're shooting the commercial or the marketing campaign is accessible and that people with disabilities can authentically, safely, securely be able to do this job. So we're really starting at kind of I like to say the fashion, beauty, and lifestyle industries because they're so core to making change happen. Because the more we see normalcy in that people come in all different shapes, sizes, and abilities, the more that change is going to happen about how people with disabilities are included in our mainstream world.
Do you ever see this extending beyond just fashion industry, maybe into adjacent industries?
Absolutely. I think, expanding beyond fashion and again, really focusing on products, that are a little bit more lifestyle is really helping us get bigger and expand more. But there's still so much we have to do in those industries that, I hope in the 5 to 10 year range that you'll be seeing gamut seals all over the place.
Yeah, and I gotta imagine there's more than just the humanitarian impact here. There's probably a significant business impact, I
Oh,
would.
it's huge.
Yeah,
There's roughly $13 trillion that's being left on the table every year by not including people with disabilities into our mainstream products and services because they have money to spend. And if there's not something they can spend it on,
yeah. And it seems like the changes aren't dramatically different changes. They're just adaptations to the products, right?
exactly.
Wow, that's incredible. So, how would our viewers get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
Absolutely. I would encourage everyone to go to our websites, runwayofdreams.org or Gamut, and that's GAMUT management.com. They can connect with me there. My email is Mindy at gamutmanagement.com. We do a lot of workshop with companies to really understand who the consumer is with a disability. Because if you don't know that as a foundational principle, it'll be really hard to even go down the course of developing products for them. That is something that we feel strongly is always our first step in working with a client. It's education and
Yeah,
really being introduced to who this population is.
that's awesome. Mindy, what you're doing is admirable. I think it has a positive impact on people's life, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's been great having you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.